massive draw. We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies.
This is the Women's Elite Finale, CVR World Cup LA. So exciting. Here are your final...
This is Chris Haskell, and these are your Week 7 CVR highlights. It would be 4 laps of Watopia Hilly in all zones, and in Zone D, it was an exciting one. Lionel Vujison would try to steal one from Ryan Christensen, but Christensen wouldn't have it. His explosive sprint with about 300 meters left, locking up for Christensen's Zone D. But with a spot still on the line in the postseason, Joachim Plommers in the pink jersey for Team Experimental decided he would take a little for himself.
This is the Women's Elite Finale, CVR World Cup LA. So exciting. Here are your final results for this women's. In first place, Carrie Conabear.
Carrie Conabear off the front, more watts than anybody else. You've got to be kidding me. Carrie Conabear, then Beth York, then Jennifer Reel, and oh my goodness, we are going to see a shakeup.
In second, Claudia Behring. Unbelievable that this is happening. She's coming up over the top of the group right here. Meisel's trying to close the gap, but now it doesn't look like she's going to do it. Gets out, puts down 400 watts, comes across that line first. Third, Beth York. That may be the surprise of the day. Not surprise in her ability, but managed to stay close enough to the front that her big sprint at the end, and took those points away from Claudia in the previous one in that sprint as well. You know what? Beth is a lot of things, but I didn't know she was a sprinter. And Beth York comes around her, knocks her back, and look at that. Hugs all around. Those of you who are watching on the interwebs, my goodness, you have just been inaugurated, baptized in a sense into what virtual cycling is all about. The hardest video game ever.
Holy smokes. I'm like exhausted just watching this thing. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible, Chris. That finish was unbelievable.
Well, hello there, my fine friends. Thank you for joining us in Zone G of the CVR World Cup League. This is Week 8 of the 8-week regular season. Next week starts the postseason, but there are a couple of folks who will not make it to the postseason because they're going to win this and be automatically put into the grand final for the season in Vancouver, British Columbia. That is going to be what we decide a little bit today. We're going to be out on the London Classic course, and here's the way it's going to go. Well, not the way you think. According to Luke Skywalker, 43.7K. This is going to be a fast, tight one around Big Ben and many, many of these cool virtual streets of London. 123 meters of total rise. That's not much. So you've got this one small climb, but it has proven to be the point of animation every single one of these 7 laps that these racers are going to do. This is Zone G of 8 global zones. H is the one that comes up next in just about 3 hours, but this is Zone G, and here's who you got to pay close attention to. Shane Gaffney is one of those men. He is going to be trying to get himself into at least the postseason, if not an invitation directly. But he's got to battle this man right here, Scotty Weiss. World Championship stripes across his chest show you what he has accomplished in the past. Can he do it again tonight? Sandra Deegan, she is all over the Viking World cyclocross here. She is chasing down this woman, Dr. Allison Kubota, the one that we all chase and try to be like. She is a powerhouse, and this is her kind of steady course. Can she do it? We'll have to just wait and see. This is Zone G about to kick off right now. Let's take a look at who we've got. Scotty Weiss, Eric Sorensen, Shane Gaffney, all fighting for that top spot. As it stands now, that is your trio. In the men's B, Ignacio Torriello and Lapine. In the men's C, Levick and Cotham at the very top there. That doesn't look right to me, but maybe it isn't. Is there anybody else who can disrupt this? Absolutely. These guys would like to, the last week in the season, get one win. We'll jump to the pen now and show you how things are shaping up there. When we can get him in, I'm sure he'll just jump in over the top. That is our guy, Frank Garcia. We've got a lot to discuss today, especially as it relates to Team League. If you haven't heard about that, oh my goodness, so much possible. How about you and your team winning $20,000 for Raising Virtually? Maybe that's a spoiler. Maybe he'll feed the details here. Also,
sure, thanks for stealing the thunder. Appreciate
that.
Hey,
it's about time somebody stole some thunder from you. As we look around this group, this thing is going to drop and it is going to go. We've got a lot of the folks we know well. Cameo, Creel racing out of his zone. That's really interesting. And Gaffney also in that group. I do not see the world champion. That may be he's taken the night off. He's got his 6 races in. He may have this. Oh, no, there he is. I did not see him because I was looking in the middle of the group. He was off the front of the group like you do. He lined up last week to give people a little bit of a start, but then did not race with the group. Frank, what's that about? Why did he do that? Do you have any more information on why Weiss might have lined up but not raced?
I don't have any additional information, but he does have Zone G locked up, and so I think he was taking easy. I think he was maybe feeling a little bit under the weather, from what I understand as well. And I think he's really in this to be cheering on, and probably right next to Katrina, who we'll see here just a bit in the ladies' race.
I don't know if you know this, but it is really rare that Scotty Weiss gets sick. He is such a powerful man. Actually, influenza checked itself into the hospital to say that they had a case of Scotty Weiss. That is true. He's one of the big guys. We got Chris Beck in this group as well. ODZ represented. Looks like the sole ODZ. Already some action at the front here. This is a tough little section, and it looks like Gaffney and the rest of this trio up at the front trying to just stay in front of Scotty, who has not really decided to do too much today. There's another man, Shane Gaffney, right there with his ODZ kit on. He's got a teammate here with him today, and maybe a couple of others working for him in the mix. He's given us his camera angle, as are most of these strong riders at the top of this list. Frank, quick question for you. This little lead into this course, right? I mean, it's not part of the circuit proper. We're not going to revisit any part of this course again today. But what is the danger in this area before you get to the Strand up in Trafalgar Square and into the main section of this course?
Well, if we go to telemetry here, one of the things that you'll see, you see this long lead in, and then you see the circuit over here on the left-hand side. But right into that lead into that circuit, you'll see that yellow section, and that is probably the biggest climb of the entire day, and the hardest climb of the entire day down there. And so you can see some people will be going really hard, and it will lose some people off the back.
And we just came up and over that really punchy section right there, showing you that it's not easy. It's not a flat run-in. I mean, yes, relatively flat, but you've got to respond to things or you're going to get dropped off the back. You can't win it in the opening mile, but you can lose it. Okay, so as we kind of get ready for this, the women are about ready to start. We've got a nice group in the ladies. This is Shane Gaffney that we're watching at this point right now. But when we jump over to the women's field, still quite a bit has to be decided. Angela Webster from Team Velocity Vixen, staying right on the wheel of Allison Kubota. You might remember last week, exciting things came about when when Angela decided she was going to create some energy. Also, Trina Weiss, that would be C. Weiss right there, the wife of Weiss. I do it every week. You're welcome. In that group, being chased by Katie Pothier. Jen Mattis also in this group. Workman, Bienavente, and many of the women that you know very, very well. It looks like Allison Kubota has upgraded her Swan to have world championship stripes, the Stuffed Animal Commission is going to get on top of that and figure out what's going on. But if you're just joining us in Mixer, in Facebook, in one of these, we had over 1,000 views on that earlier broadcast just on Facebook alone, Frank. So unbelievably cool. There's Trina Weiss. She is kicking it right there in the living room space. Scotty nearby her. I recognize the couch in the background. That is a family. You've heard, a family that suffers together. I think that's the way the old adage goes. Stephanie Austin-Brink also in this group, a really breakout season for the rider, Austin-Brink. We'll talk about her. This is, for many, a celebration. There's only one who's going to come across first in this group, but many who can celebrate, oh my gosh, I did 6, 7, 8 races this season, 5, heaven forbid, in a great group, and I am one of these folks. It'll be exciting to see what comes of this in the future. Now, we see Weiss just kind of making sure she's on Allison Kubota's wheel. I find it interesting, Frank, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit. Allison Kubota has this really, really steady power. You have others like Webster, maybe Pothier, and Weiss. Weiss definitely a sprinter in this. That do a different kind of riding. How is it possible that somebody can just be so dramatically different on the bike like Allison Kubota?
Well, Chris, did you like that pregnant pause? I did it on purpose. You gave me a mechanism when I was ignoring you to be able to say, well, but what do you think, Chris? That's what it was I was supposed to say. So there you go. What do you think, Chris?
I wonder internally if it isn't how you come into cycling to an extent, right? Some of it is physiology. But if you see cycling as, say, a triathlete would, right? Where it is, I want to be able to do as much as I can for as long as I can, but I have to measure my output. I think it's hard to break that mentality as you move forward. I think somebody who comes out and starts as a club rider where you have some sprints or you have, your first focus is rotation, that when you get in a spot of bother, that's what you go back to. So I wonder if it isn't Allison Kubota and her origins in time trial that make her just the natural rider on the front of this group. Although Webster is dictating a little bit different pace.
Wow, another pregnant pause. So, I'm sorry. I'm probably the only one that thinks this is funny at this point. So a couple of different things that we're doing. We're working with the helicopters to bring in Angela here so we can see, Angela and Ellison at the top of the women's bracket. So we can see them race, sort of head to head, if you will. We've got Stephanie Austin-Brink there, who on average has an excellent chance of getting into probably second place. So you've got this big deal between Angela and Stephanie Austin-Brink to see who gets the bid to the postseason. So there's a story going on there. So we're working over here to make sure that we sort of can get that view going for everyone. And so give me a little bit of time, and then I'll come back and say hello, and you can ask me questions going forward from there.
You got it. So let us bring you up to speed on what has happened. I think we'll jump over to the men's race here in just a moment, starting to heat up over there. This is a tough spot. Just a moment, the men went up over this same climb. They started about 3 minutes ahead of these women. Maybe it's 5. You'll have to tell me in chat what you think. Thank you so much for joining us on all the different resources that we have here. Of course, Mixer, Facebook, and the others, et al., as it were. It is fun to be able to bring these to you and to be able to show you these different events. So throw comments in those spaces. We'll find a way to get up to them. Ghost Dog, you're talking crazy stuff. Tree, I don't know what you're talking about. Absolutely, it's real. Real bikes, real power. Here's how it works. These are real bikes. These are real riders. Trainers, they actually put the rear wheel in a trainer. Sometimes it's just the rear cog. And that tracks the power that they're putting out in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see those big white numbers with the W behind it. That's watts, right? Trina Weiss here holding about 170 now, up over 200. She's going to hit this hill. You know what? If we can, let's stay on her for just a second because you're about to see what goes down here. As she hits that hill, the computer sends data back to her bike and to her trainer, and it says, hey, this is getting a little bit steeper. It's going to go uphill right here. In fact, it's going to hit about 4%, 5%. It's 3 right now and starting to kick. And look at those watts go up. She gets out of the saddle just like you would on a real hill because that's what you do. 5% grade right here. Trina in the red and white kit right there is the one you see. And there she is in real life as well. Looking over on her big screen there to see where everyone else is. She doesn't want to get blown by. She wants to maybe stay here on the front. She's looking really, really fresh as she comes in here. So they're going to head to the right here. This is virtual London. You're driving or riding or watching through Trafalgar Square here. This is called the Strand. It's an out and back. It's actually the name of this little section of the city in real London, and we're going to race it virtually. That kite that you see up ahead, that's a big arch, by the way. That's what we call it in the cycling world, is the 1 kilometer to go banner. Not this lap, but 7 laps from now. This is lap 1 of 7 for these riders. They will come under that banner for the last time with only 1 kilometer to go. It's a little more than a third of a mile, but you get the idea. That is when the race really shows where the fast riders sit. So Trina doing a nice job tapping it out. You'll notice her watts drop a little bit more, but her heart rate still high. That is some great stuff. Yeah, Tree, absolutely. You know, it's not quite as exciting maybe as Eagle Pickle kind of sitting having breakfast cereal and watching himself in the mirror. But you know what? We'll broadcast what we can. These are real riders on the cusp of 2 things, real sport and esports. So where's the game in this? You know what? You can trust me. I'm a doctor of all things video games, a university professor. I run a collegiate esports program. I'll tell you a little bit about that a little bit later. This is a passion of mine. It's the 2 worlds. If there's a Venn diagram of nerd, this is in the middle of it for me, right? Cycling on one side, video games on the other, and that's how it goes. So in this women's field doing great work, we're going to try to bring you some others. Hey, there's Angela Webster coming into view there. This is her view early on in the race here. They're over right in front of Buckingham Palace over there. We don't see the Royals. They're not out here in virtual form. Maybe they were over the weekend. That would have been an interesting Easter egg. But as they come through and under the banner here, this will be lap 1 of 7 laps to go. And there they are. Angela Webster. She's got her both sides there. Okay, we'll check in with our men right now. Here is Shane Gaffney, Team ODZ. I know an awful lot about this team. We threw out a question before. Who was the first virtual team on Zwift? It actually happened to be ODZ. They were gifted the first virtual kit before they even had a real life kit, and now there are over 1,000 members worldwide in this cycling club, and they ride together daily, almost hourly in this virtual world. But we're not just riding together calmly. We are racing together today. And Shane Gaffney has a teammate there right with him. You'll notice the other ODZ kit kind of moving through the system here. We'll introduce you to those riders as we go. But of all the jerseys, the one you want to pay the most attention to, and I think the fireworks are about to start on the men's side, is you'll find the rainbow stripes that are coming down vertically on that jersey. That is a guy by the name of Scotty Weiss. He is a world champion. He's going to give you anything but Evil Pickle boring here. He's going to give you something much hotter in just a second. That gentleman right there, Frank Levick, really having a great season this year, and we're going to see him provide some fireworks coming up here shortly. He's trying to stay in with this men's A group as long as he can. He is competing for the B or the C, C bracket. Maybe it's the B. I'll have to double check. I can't remember at this moment to bring that in. But when we get Frank back in a couple minutes, I want to ask him a little bit more about what's coming up here. This is week 8 if you're just joining us. Thank you for just joining us. Glad to have you here. This is week 8 of the season. of 8 weeks. We're going to drop into the postseason. There goes the excitement that I talked about just a little bit ago. Smith off the front here. Scotty Weiss kind of hanging in the group. I think he's going to see what he can do a little bit later. He wants to hang in and find out who the aggressors are rather than just riding away from this group. And Shane Gaffney with a little bit more work in his face right there. You see that smiliness? Absolutely, Shane. We see that one chest hair you've got right there. It's around about near your heart rate monitor. Now keep that chest hair a-flapping here as you move into this main group here. Keep your teammate right on his wheel. That's Chris Beck, who's hanging out right on his wheel. He's here to shepherd his guy to the finish line here. The points are real. Shane Gaffney very likely, well, I won't say likely because I don't make the decisions here. He could find himself at the live event in Vancouver that's coming up in just a little over a month. We'll introduce you to that shortly. But these riders, the winners of each of the 8 global zones, this is Zone G, will actually be all expense paid to an extent and big prize money to Vancouver to race against each other in real life. And we'll talk to Frank about that when we get him back in just a second. I know he's working hard to make sure that all of these riders are visible and the helicopter pilots know where to go. You'd think they'd know how to do this. Wouldn't this be great? People asking if this is for Xbox. Not yet, but it could be. I mean, if you think about the lifting power of something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think what you see here, part of the barrier to entry is you need a special controller, right? You can't use your standard Xbox controller here. You need Ready Player One type equipment. You need to virtualize actual physical effort, digitize it and inject it into the game, and so we need to come up with those devices for Xbox. I'm sure they're on their way. Manufacturers like Ceres and Cyclops probably looking at those things all the time, especially when they see the following that is starting to grow on Mixer.
No kidding. It is big time awesome here. Shane Gaffney is a guy that you need to know because he's sitting high, ladies and gentlemen, in the standings. The standings most specifically for this Zone G. You could check out any of these details that you want over at CVRWorldCup.com. You can see that on the screen right here. More specifically, if you want to watch any of the riders that you see here that are streaming and have their stuff up on there, you can actually select these riders. Go 4 wide here. Just in the females, you could watch Allison, Stephanie, Angela, and any of those that happen to be streaming over there. You could see them. You could also see the men there as well. Now, as we talk about this men's A group, Shane Gaffney sitting in 3rd position right now in this. Chris Beck is the guy who hasn't done as many races here. This is his 2nd of this 8-week season. Scotty has locked up, as you mentioned, this opportunity, but number 2 is missing from the group today. The trivia question is, do you know who it is who is not visible here in the field today? And why is it that Shane Gaffney finds himself in 3rd position?
I do not know.
Okay, well, we'll return to that, see if folks in either of the chats, Facebook or Mixer, can identify the missing rider today. But Shane Gaffney fighting for an opportunity to go. He's got 991 points average in these races. He's been finishing really, really high. And there are going to be a number of riders invited. Here we go with the women starting to make this climb here. I don't want to get too far into a topic without paying close attention to what's happening here because this could get crazy. You'll notice that Katie Pothier, who was at the last CVR live event in Los Angeles, it was the major, finds herself off the back now about 1 minute and 20 seconds. She's with good company, Benavente, Hewitt, White, Jen Mattis a little bit further behind her. They're going to try to come together and put this together. But this quartet of women at the front here, quartet? Yes, quartet. Weiss, Webster, of course, Allison Kubota. That's Dr. Allison Kubota. There's Angela right there, Webster herself, showing you how hard she is working. She says, no, I'm not working that hard. You are, in fact, working that hard. She is part of Team Velocity Vixen, evidenced by the fact that she has got that almost maroon jersey with the right angle. You'll see the orange stripe down the back. But the thing that gives it away even more is the mohawk, right? They like to rock the hawk. That is part of their uniform. They set their avatar to be visible that way. All right, there's Katie Pothier now coming up to the little hill, which doesn't feel like a little hill when you're in distress there. She is doing a nice job. She's had a great season, huge improvements. She'd like to be up with that main group. I have no doubt that she is going to climb her way into that position in future races. She's laying the groundwork for Team PTZ right now, which is a really strong women's team. They'll probably be featured highly in the upcoming events that we'll talk about a little bit later, as I already kind of started to steal the thunder. But back to that initial question that I started to wander away from, Frank, even further back in time. Royal Spartan wants to know, who is the LeBron James in this game? Frank, who is the LeBron James of virtual cycling?
Right now, I would have to say that from a league perspective, what we're seeing is a lot of parity in the elite group. Scotty Weiss has dominated league racing, but in the live events, he's come up a little bit short. Not real short, if you ask Scotty, but he hasn't shown quite the dominance in real life events, and I suspect that might change here in Vancouver as he looks to peak for Vancouver. But if there is a LeBron James in game right now, it is Scotty.
Well, and Scotty, so I'm going to carry this forward there, Spartan. These guys are so much, yes, they're a little higher on the age curve than you would be, but you would be amazed. Okay, so, and maybe we can kick this around a little bit because we have some former professionals that have been in the races today, even some current professionals, triathletes and otherwise. We saw in Los Angeles, didn't we, Frank, that we have some folks that are world-class caliber, but they have other jobs. We make jokes all the time about Matthew Gardner, who's the fastest accountant on a bike. He showed that he is world-class. He beat regularly, as did Adam Zimmerman, one of the fastest men in the world on a bike, Lionel Sanders from Canada. Okay, kicking it up here. We've got somebody new animating in the front here. That's Goulet, Cameo right behind him. Scotty is just behind him. That's Scotty Weiss, the SW is in his name right there. That is who he is. He is the SW. I don't quite get that branding moniker. Maybe we ought to get the branding committee out there and say, yeah, you maybe need something else. Maybe you could be the honey badger. Maybe you could be the disgruntled postman. Maybe you could be the turnt burrito. I don't know.
You don't get Thu's place? Come on. Everybody gets Thu's place. The Scotty
Thu's place.
But we call him Thu's place. So you just got to be in the know. Like, it's kind of like a hipster joke, Chris. Some of us are in the know. Some of us aren't. Some of us know who LeBron James is. Some of us talk to LeBron James on a regular basis. Some of us don't.
Hashtag name dropper. Okay. Yeah, okay. Royal, let's see you get in this and deliver this. Now, what we find is that folks, even after they're past that age where they feel comfortable making hardly any money as a professional cyclist, spending all of their time on the bike and never time at home with their families, they move on and do stuff. But actually, their overall ability doesn't drop, especially in these races that last an hour or less. They can just throw down with the best of them. We saw that in Los Angeles. I think we're going to see that again in Vancouver. This group has slimmed down a little bit. We have some folks who are off the back. We see we see through it all in that case. But those who have made it here, Gaffney, Creel, Tamafuji, I would expect him to be there. No doubt Weiss is going to be there. And a few of the other names that we know, including Chris Beck, who we're following right now. But as this group gets smaller, how does that change the dynamic of the race, Frank? What are the strategies that people can look for? Because maybe what they see is just a bunch of people kind of moving around in a blob. But what's actually happening here is chess on a bike.
Well, one of the things that you're going to see here, I've got telemetry up here so we can chat about it a little bit. So one of the things that you're going to note, we're going to look at Brandon here for a bit, and what you're going to see is once the group separates from you, the time keeps growing, and it looks to me like Brandon is really putting in a big effort here to try and stay connected to the group. But then you look at Brian and so on and so forth. Once you lose that main group by attrition, like they go up the hills pretty hard, there's an attack, there's something that causes you to become unlinked with the group, it's very, very difficult in Zwift to get back to the group. So first and foremost, don't lose the group. Now, the group is doing the opposite, right? They're trying to thin out people who aren't attentive or who don't have quite the strength to go up a hill. And so they're going to try and build that attrition. It's at this early stage, it's a game of attrition. And we're going to watch Shane here because it's flat today, so I think Shane's going to stay in. But when it rises a little bit, people are going to try and put him under pressure and spit him out the back because they don't want Shane around at the end. They just want to get the numbers smaller and smaller and smaller and just leave the strong men or the strong women in for the finish.
Now, you'll notice the light blue and the orange stripes on the back of Shane Gaffney. He's actually wearing the kit in real life, too. He's got a teammate, Chris Beck, a really strong rider, especially in the flats. Now, that guy is here not to try to take points from anybody necessarily. He's there to get his guy across the line first. So he's officially in charge of closing those gaps, making sure that the aerodynamic advantage falls on Gaffney's shoulders if they take off, and he's got to pull him back to that main group. That's the guy right there. His faithful lieutenant, Chris Beck, is going to pull him. And see, he's right there next to him. He's not going to let his guy get separated from him. That's his job. He's going to focus on him completely. Now, we're getting ready for this big event. It comes at the end of June, and it's going to be another live event. This will mark the 5th of these CVR World Cup events that have taken place in cities all over the world. Let's see if I can list them in order. We're going to start with Las Vegas, Frank. Am I right so far?
That was an easy one.
Okay, Las Vegas, followed by London, followed by Paris, followed by Los Angeles, all about 3 to 5 months apart. Then the next one comes up in Vancouver, British Columbia, and it's going to be go ahead.
And I was going to say, I'm going to rebrand this one. I'm going to have a little fun with Scotty here, and I'm going to say we're going to rebrand that. Does Scotty Weiss become the LeBron James of virtual cycling in Vancouver, right? Is he going to be able to win? Because maybe Scotty's been playing a little bit coy, and he just wanted the prize purse to get really big and then come take it away from everybody. And if so, he's definitely the LeBron James of virtual cycling. If not, then it's still up for grabs, and there's a lot of parity. Adam Zimmerman, who took the race in Los Angeles, the major, he says, hey, wait a minute, I'm the LeBron James. But we might have to wait a little bit for that to determine over time.
No kidding. And maybe we can ask the producer maybe to pull this up. I'd be very interested if we get a calm moment like this. And we may not get this calm moment. Maybe if you spot that calm moment, you can just trigger it. We'd love to take a quick look, maybe at just the first 20 seconds or so of the sprint finish of the last one, to just talk about what could happen here at any point during this race, but most likely at the end, and how dramatic things can finish. But as we look at these men, I'm very interested to see how these folks are going to be selected. Now, you mentioned 8 global zone winners. Now, there are a few riders that qualified for this upcoming event based on their success in the previous season, right? There are a few of those folks. Okay, here's what it is. This is the way it went down during the last stage. Of course, that was Zone F. We called this just a little over 3 hours ago. And right out of the front, it was Frank Deal from Team Experimental trying to get away, trying to get off the front and make that happen. But look who blows by him. Oh my goodness, Greg Leo. He had not had a win in any of these events. He'd been bridesmaid many, many times. He wanted to be the bride. He wanted to be pretty. And Greg Leo, from his perspective, this is what he saw. Frank Deal would ramp up as soon as they hit the red tarmac in front of Buckingham Palace. This is the long lead up to virtual Buckingham Palace, and he decided he was going to go as well. But you'll notice, no panic. Those shades are hot. He's got his hat backwards, his pods in. He's listening to a little bit of a Mexican language or Spanish language death metal, and he uncorks his bottle of pain right here. He's going to make a pass just at the beginning of the official sprint section, the part that is marked for the upper end of this sprint section, and he is going to pass Frank Deal. He just does not have enough left. But would somebody, maybe Steve, maybe O'Donnell or Daniel, catch him? Maybe Nate Miller, who'd been chasing him all day? Not likely. Greg Leo finds himself across that line. That is a big win for him, actually, and it was a field sprint win. It was his teammate who attacked with about a mile left to go with no response from the group that got him off the front there. And that it's a big. He is, in a sense, the bride in this case. He did get second. He did punch his ticket to Vancouver.
He's both the bride and the bridesmaid, right? So he is on the day the bridesmaid, but for the season, the bride. But Matt is best man because Matt and Draft, tremendous teamwork throughout the season, delivered Greg to the line many times so that Greg can move on, and we can see him in Vancouver.
Yep. The women are kind of settling in here just a little bit. Now, they are very aware of how much time is left. About 16 miles left to go in this race for these women, a little under 17. And you've got this core group. Now, who really is at an advantage to break up this group? Who's the weakest in the group to do this? And you notice we're coming up on the rider just up ahead, which is not one of the riders we're chasing per se. This is just to help us keep good camera position on the course here. But who really benefits the least from staying in a quartet here?
Everybody but Katrina. So is a good way to say that. So if you're in this quartet, you want it to become, what's a triplet? In terms of music. Trio. Wow, there you go. You think someone would know that kind of thing. But
2 + 2 is 4 - 1, that's 3. Quick math.
That's and that's a trio, right? In music.
Yes, it is.
I guess I was never into music. Actually, I remember taking a music course where they would have you try and name instruments. That was like the final. Well, let's not talk about what my grade point average was after that debacle. But one of the things I think they want to lose Katrina. Ellison can certainly sprint. I've disparaged her sprinting in the past, much to my demise as well. So she's thinking she can sprint. But if you want to lose somebody, you want to lose Katrina here. So really, it should be 3-on-1 here, because at the end, it's going to be Katrina sprinting for the win if you leave her in. Now, really important here, the main storyline is really Angela Webster and Stephanie Ossenbrink, because who crosses the line first today could determine who goes on to the postseason, right? Ellison's got the zone locked up, but second is up for grabs, and second goes to the postseason to try and get a berth to the next season's World Cup final event. So a lot on the line here for the second position.
Now, this is really interesting. How many total riders from each of the from men's and women's will advance to the event in Vancouver?
1 from each zone. That's 8 men and 8 women across the globe. So, if you think about it this way, although you can race whenever it's convenient for you, you don't have to race within a geography, you race within a time that's convenient for you. But basically, people, that usually tends to be geographically based. What is convenient for people, after work, before work, that kind of thing. So you sort of start in the Asian, Australian zones, move through India and Russia, then Germany, France, Paris, Belgium, obviously the United Kingdom, Europe, I guess is an easy way to say that. And then you cross the ocean and you hit the east coast of North America and South America proper, and then you sort of hit the rest of the Americas with the west coast of the U.S. and Canada, Mexico and on down into Central America. And then you have the outlying islands, Hawaii and that sort of things, sort of the Pacific island areas. And so 1 person from each zone, 1 man, 1 woman from each zone, and then we pick a couple of the postseason decides 1 man and 1 woman more, so you have to win globally, right? So all the second places from all the zones come together, race head to head in a single elimination tournament. The one that makes it all the way through gets to go to the World Cup as well, and then we have some invites that we leave open also.
So how many total invites will there be for men and women? Is it just one invite, at-large invite?
Well, okay, so that's great. I was going to say, well, what do you mean by invite? Because some of these people are earning their way in, And we typically have between 1 and 4 invites.
Okay. How many total riders will there be for men and women?
It varies by which season. In Vancouver, it will be 20, and in LA,
Gotcha.
it was 40.
Gotcha. Okay. 20 total men, 20 total women.
Well, and I should say here, it is at the organizer's discretion. There will be at least 20, but there may be a few more. We're seeing some expansion in the CVR World Cup arena, so it's growing. It used to be 10 racers online at a time. It's at least 11 now. We don't necessarily fill that 11th position because we leave it for a backup in case anything goes wrong with any of the other things. So that we don't have an athlete who doesn't get to compete because there was a technical issue. But who's to say that couldn't be even bigger?
Right. I mean, a dozen. You could, these races really lend themselves to some really cool and interesting things. Okay. Great questions being asked here all over the place, and lots of fan commentary jumping up in different places. We're seeing the women right here. Katie Pothier has broken away from her group here, sees maybe the opportunity to catch on to the back of this collective. She's left a few folks behind, but Hewitt says, I want to go with you. She's right behind her, just a couple of meters. The other riders close by, but it is, without a doubt, Pothier who is setting the pace in that group right now. Trina Weiss in this group, you mentioned she's the one that benefits the most from being there. But let's check out what's going on in the men's side of things. Here it is coming up. They're almost halfway through at 34 minutes. That's unbelievable. So fast in this group, averaging 25, 26, 27 miles an hour. That is fast under any circumstances, unbelievably fast here. They're going to come around to this kicker of a hill section, and let me tell you why this is so important. Those of you who are listening, when you hit this hill section here, and it's not much, 3, 4, 5%, things are going to get tough for everyone. The power that they're putting into their trainer, it's going to start to get a little bit tougher because these smart trainers are smart enough to know when you're going up a hill, and the game sends it back. Here's the live view as we look at Chris Beck trying to shepherd his guy, but you're behind your guy right now. Gaffney is the one who is climbing up here. They're coming up through Trafalgar Square. That was a big jump up the hill there, and there was a big attack. Kameo Tomofuji in that group. Scotty Weiss also maybe making a move here. He's 3 seconds up the road with Kameo. That is a little twosome that could do some damage. Kameo, very strong in this race historically. He's finished very high. He's always someone you expect to be there, not someone you expect to get dropped, certainly not on a crit course or a circuit course like this one. Okay, it doesn't look like it was much there, much ado about nothing. Maybe Scotty will try to get away here. Maybe he'll crank it up as he is wont to do from time to time. Or maybe he is just kind of practicing some of these group riding skills because he thinks he can out sprint the group at the end. Maybe he's still just recovering if he was out last week. What's your guess here? What's the play from the world champion here?
Well, maybe he's heard some discussions of becoming a LeBron James, and he's out to do that. I think that was just go up the hill hard. Let's see who we can drop. Now, this is a very interesting race today. So Chris Beck, super strong rider. And so this is very interesting to me to sort of see ODZ out. You've got Chris Beck out. You've obviously got Shane in this particular group. Then you have we talked a little bit about some of the Team X, riding maybe more as individuals as of late. They used to be sort of the exemplary team. But sometimes as you get stronger and stronger people, into the team, there becomes, some fractures, of the team. And I'd say probably the team showing the most teamwork at the moment is Team Draft, but you also see, sort of ODZ coming to the fore here. Justin Wagner did a great job, and ODZ, I think, in Zone C, right? And so you see these teams, and we should mention as part of the team construct, and maybe people will think back to what I was saying about how many trainers you might have, but we've announced the team tour today. The team tour is Pro Tour, Pro League, and it is about teams, and we have some unique formats to sort of enforce the team racing. We won't get into all of that in detail today, but just know that teams can take home a lot of money in the seasons, and teams will be a part of constructing exactly what the league looks like as well from the very beginning, and athletes will have a voice as well. Exciting stuff.
Very, very exciting stuff. So as you look at the teams, a little bit more maybe on how they might come to be a team in that league. Is it existing teams now? Is it do teams try out? Do they apply for acceptance? How many teams will you accept into team league? Have any of those things been determined yet?
A number of things have been determined. So first of all, this is a professional league, and it requires some capital, read that as money, to join the league for each of the teams. Now, the
Overwatch League was $20 million.
Yes. Okay. So we're not quite asking for 20 million yet. We are a number. Let's say 4 zeros behind that or more. But in terms of there's a buy-in, if you will, to the league. We are looking at 2 zones. There will be a limit to the number. But we're going to see how that develops over time and work with the team committee on what's ideal for the league as well. So, we're going to push this. We're going to supply a lot of money. We're going to supply $20,000 to $50,000 in the inaugural finals for the teams to take. First place will take home a lot, and everybody else will collect at least the cost of entry back out, assuming that they meet a few criteria. And that's criteria is just basically you race all the league races with sufficient numbers of riders in your team, and number 2, all of your riders adhere to all the rules, and that's basically how that works.
Very, very cool. How big will these teams be conceptually?
So there's both mixed teams or co-ed teams. I say mixed because here in the United States we say co-ed, and I get a kick out of it because I say co-ed to somebody else, and they're like, well, you're taking 2 majors? What does that mean exactly? So mixed teams means that you can have both males and females on the same team, and those will be 12-person roster, 6 men, 6 women, of which 3 must race each race, and then you have the standard, what I call the standard teams, the male teams and the female teams, and those are 10 roster teams with 5 to 8 racing in each race. So that's the sizes of the teams.
Okay, this is going to be so exciting, and it will culminate in a live event as these other ones have in the past. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's where the big prize money will be. You'll also, for completing the league, get prize money as well, even if you're not invited to the live finals. But the live finals will be expanding, right? So you'll have both the individual racers like we have now, and then you'll have the team racers as well. Now, the zones will probably work out a little bit different for teams, right? Because we're taking a lot of people. You've got to have 10 people or 8 people that race in a standard zone. So it looks like teams will have at least 2 zones, maybe more, depending on what the team committee decides. But basically at least 2 zones, the Europe zone and the Americas zone, and then that'll get expanded out. I imagine Asia will come online next, and so on and so forth. Asia, Australia, that zone where you get some teams. But we might get some teams out of there to begin with.
This is really exciting stuff. As we look around this group, we see Vision, we see ODZ represented here, we see Team Draft at different points in the group here. We see Team Experimental as well, and then a team of 1, the Scotty. Who of these teams do you anticipate, and could we see others?
Oh, you'll
new
absolutely
ones form.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to see a couple of things here, right? So everyone hold on to your hat, call us up, get on the rosters, talk to us soon, because you're going to see Zwift teams. You're going to see new Zwift teams. And I hate to drop this, but you're also most likely going to see pro teams that, and I call these in real life pro teams, putting out a number of people to race in these races, because let's face it, you collect 20 to 50 grand, that's worthwhile. Having a couple riders race 8 weeks on a Tuesday and then go and compete in the finals for that sort of money. Now, enticing for the men, but that could be a significant portion of a female team's budget, because right now in pro cycling they just don't pay women like they pay the men. We do, right? And so this can be huge numbers for female teams as well. So we're expecting a lot of competition in the team bracket and some new competition as well.
No kidding. Now we're watching something pretty heroic happening right here. Trina Weiss is doing her best to pull this group back to Angela Webster, who escaped just before the hill a moment ago. David Lipscomb, her coach, you see the orange commentary on the side, as if a radio in her ear. He is giving her advice from the team car. Hold it right here. He understands her physical limits, her mental limits, and where she is in her fatigue cycle right now, and knows that she's got to pull this back. I think what she's doing is she's going to get a little bit of an advantage here in a moment from Allison Kubota, who's going to pull this back. She's done her little chunk of work right here, and sure enough, Stephanie Austin-Brink comes to the front of this little trio, but they are 5 seconds back now from Webster. But this is early. This is about halfway, a little less than halfway left. This is early.
Yeah, well, and very interesting here. I'm not sure, and I didn't see the message from the coach, but maybe the coach was like, Katrina, get off the front, because that's what I would be telling Katrina. The only person that should be pulling right now is Stephanie Austin-Brink, right? Ellison's got it locked up, and unless Ellison and Stephanie are friends and they want to help each other out. But otherwise, the only one that needs to pull back Angela Webster is Stephanie Austin-Brink, right? So if I was the other two, I'd be like, hey, go get her. And yes, we're going to take a free ride up to her, but we're not going to chase her down. You got to chase her down. And at the point that you realize that Austin-Brink can't do that, then you just leave her behind. You take off and you do a big effort, and then you've got the war of attrition going and whittling it down.
That is what's happening for sure. Now, interesting question that I'll throw right back on you. Matthew Brandt, who raced in the previous one, we showed his highlight just a little bit ago, wants to know who the groom is. We discussed Greg Leo as the bride and the bridesmaid simultaneously. We're not going to get into the implications of that, but he wanted to know who the groom was.
Tell him he needs to get with the times, and I don't think we have grooms anymore, do we?
We may not, and unclear. We'll wait for the polite police to notify us of any potential violations to that. Now, when we talk about the CVR World Cup Team Tour, this is really what gets exciting. There are two really strong women's teams, really full women's teams right now: Velocity Vixen and, of course, Team Fearless. I don't see any of the Fearless riders here. For some reason, I thought Austin-Brink was, but Jen Mattis, Angela Webster are two members of that. Trina is in her own category, her own coaching group, but we may see with the advent of this big event coming up, some folks, as you mentioned, come together. There'll certainly be invites out there to try to get some strong riders. Lots of encouragement by Coach. Good, as we see it. Katie Pothier, the PTZ rider, staying right there with with the Vixen rider Benavente.
Yeah, well, and I think what you're going to see, you've got a number of women's teams, and we see them a little bit more in the postseason. Sometimes you got PTZ, you got Vixen, you got Fearless. Some of these teams are large enough to even contemplate putting on multiple teams into the team tour, right? And so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And so it was pretty funny. I am part of Team X, and I know I've been talking about a little bit of fracture and all sort of that stuff, and I sort of try and be objective about this. But I will share a little bit of inside information. This could be the kind of thing that could actually help Team X, right? You could have two teams. And you could have a leader in both teams that everybody's comfortable supporting. Now, the way the team tour is going to work, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. I won't share exactly why that is, but you're not going to be able to have one strong person that wins the team event for you. It's going to have to be your entire team. More on that in the coming weeks. as we share. But my point is, sometimes you can sort of get those warring factions, give them their own team, and now it's pretty exciting. And then what becomes interesting is if those teams meet up somewhere along the way in a similar zone. But what I think you'd normally see is you'd have one Team X team in one zone and another Team X team in another zone. Now, who knows? We say that now, but maybe Team X doesn't even get in. Right? I mean, that's the exciting part of what's coming up.
Yeah, that is one of the big exciting parts, and you just don't know. That's the truth. You could have a group that just does not make the final cut when the decisions are made about which teams are in, and that happened a lot in expansion, and it happened certainly when you see some folks like Team Envious not make it into the Overwatch League, or some of the craziness that happened with teams not getting their charters renewed in League of Legends. Teams that you think are really, really strong, they've got to prove themselves on multiple levels. It's not just a recognizable name, but rather a continuity, a structure, a comfort that comes from being an officially good team.
Yeah, I think that, it's really exciting. I think the team aspect is just sort of another dimension, right? You have team tactics even in the individual races, and you see it more so in the postseason. And that should give some people some clues as to how we will drive more team dynamics in the team tour in the virtual space. But one of the things that we look at in terms of it changes the game, and it gives you the ability to be a part of the ODZ team. Maybe you're more of a fan than you are an elite racer, but you get to buy the jerseys. It's what we all do in what we do.
It is what we do in what we do. Never truer words. As the women come up this hill.
Wow, I'm going to start calling you out, Chris. I just want you to know I've been letting things go pretty easy on you, but okay, game on now, man.
All right, here we go. Chris Beck doing what we described a little bit earlier, making sure that his guy is in a good spot. But here goes Scotty. He's been waiting for us to call his name, and it's starting to tear up right now. That is the man on the front of this thing, Scotty Weiss. And you'll notice 14 watts per kilo. Those are big numbers underneath his name. That means he's going really, really hard. Jeffrey Creel from Team Vision trying to get on his wheel as well. And Holden Cameo still trying to stay wherever Scotty is, but it looks like this might be escape velocity right now. The rocket is lit. We have cleared the tower. My goodness, what is going on? There's just nothing but smoke and like orange peels and crazy KFC wrappers left on the launch pad for Scotty. That's what happens here. Goulet is the man we just started calling his name today. But now, 3 seconds back, Chris Beck has the obligation of catching on the wheel of his guy, Shane Gaffney, and seeing if they can pull this group back. Scotty's still 2 seconds ahead. This was the look at the top. He is in big, big pain. He's going to need his lieutenant to pull him back to this group. I absolutely have no doubt. He's not going to be able to pull it back.
Is that heart rate for real?
I believe that it is. He is he's a cyborg. But look at the look on his face. It could be real. He could be out sweating that thing. I've seen mine double as the battery starts to get low. We do know that he is putting out a heart rate, so that's not a concern for disqualification.
I think he just pegged it. I think he just pegged it, and the heart rate meter's just stuck there as an indication of, no, you shouldn't have gone this hard. I'm just going to stay pegged so you can take this and talk to your doctor.
Yep, and look who's the next guy in the line just above Gaffney. As you look at the lower right-hand corner on your screen, you see Gaffney, Chris Beck. He is 10 seconds ahead of him on that group. He is going to really have to hit the brakes, but it doesn't look like he's doing it. With now he's 4 watts per kilo, but he was 6 a moment ago. He's trying to stay on the group here. You can see them right there. Smith in the gap. Chris Beck is trying to stay on this group, but he has left his guy behind. Maybe this is now for him, or maybe in the team conversation he said, look, man, I just don't have it today. Shane Gaffney, tired after a tough season, 8 races, still in a great position. He said, you know what, Chris, I'm not going to be able to hang on with that group. You're not going to be able to pull me back to that group. We missed our chance. I'm going down with the Titanic. But you, sir, you can get on a door and you can go to freedom. I'll never forget you, Jack. He lets him go. Never let go, Jack. A little bit of that moment just a moment ago. That was, of course, I believe there also are some sketch drawings of Chris Beck taken by Gaffney. Okay, anyway, we're going to bring this back to the family-friendly channel that it always is. But Creel makes this group. This is a clear selection. Now 45 seconds back to Shane Gaffney. That is tough. He would benefit now from just catching on to anyone's wheel that he can. Smith is the next guy. Maybe he can get there. Scotty is trolling the back of this group. Chris Beck, Goulet, and another guy, Horacio, who we've not seen much of in the past. He is really dictating in this one. This is what we see from Shane's perspective.
I think that 219, I mean, even he was reaching to his heart rate monitor. I just think he maxed out. I'm impressed. 219. To be able to push yourself to go that hard, I mean, he's still at 206, right? I mean, this is full-on recovery. We're in the last lap of the last race of the regular season here in the spring season. And this is, I just have to say this. I mean, everybody probably doesn't appreciate this, and I realize that Shane's off the back here, but what heart this guy has, like figuratively and literally. Like, that is a huge effort to be able to push yourself that hard. And he probably did that because he was trying to stay with Chris, who might have been out working for him today, right? And you can just push yourself to places that you just otherwise wouldn't be able to go. That's the other dimension of team that we talk about sometimes, but maybe we don't talk about enough. That is an amazing effort. I am really, really impressed by Shane being able to dig that deep. That's digging deep.
Yes, it is. And he gave it everything he's got. Speaking of giving it everything he's got, here's another guy, Scotty Weiss, trying to just break away from this group, see if he can break them. One of the things he likes to do is if he gets a decent gap, 4, 5, 6 seconds, it's all or nothing for Holden Cameo right now, trying to catch on to Scotty's wheel. That is some big effort at the front. In fact, Scotty's going so fast, we've lost connection with him. We can't see him on the course anymore. Very interested to know if that is a mechanical or a computer crash or something that has taken him out of world here. We do not see him anymore. Is it possible that Scotty lifted off, went into space? Maybe so. Hard to tell.
Well, and I hope everything's okay with Scotty, because one of the things, and he was putting in a huge effort there, Scotty is on rollers. And and normally he streams. Today is streaming in favor of Katrina, but he may have come off the rollers. I mean, if you put out an effort big like that, and Scotty rarely does, but hopefully we'll get a report back and you know a message from everybody. I don't think he's come off the rollers and there's any big injury. Otherwise, Katrina is ignoring him completely and staying focused on the race. But he might have had a mechanical and therefore dropped out of the race.
Now, computers count as mechanicals. He could add a dropout. He could have unplugged the power. He could have forgotten to plug in the power on his computer. Hey, that's never happened to me before in these events. I have gone to sleep from time to time and lost the feed of the race. But this changes it dramatically. Chris Beck now in this group, but they do not have a Scotty to chase. So immediately, the structure of the race changes quite a bit. So what do we have here? What do we see from this group now that changes this? They're coming into the final lap right here, trying to make contact with that finish line first. Cameo, Beck, Creel, all in that, and Horacio in that main group. Lined out a little bit here with a little bit of effort. Who do you see coming across this first today?
I probably see Chris Beck coming across first, but you've got from Velocity T in Canada, Goulet. I'm not familiar with Horacio, so I probably would pick Chris Beck here, Masters National Championship from the U.S. I think he's the current Nationals in real life. We've got a different one in the virtual world as well, so you got to keep those things straight. But definitely Creel will have a shot, but I'm picking Beck.
You're picking Beck. You know what? I can't go against a teammate. My colors are clear here. I'm for ODZ. Those are my teammates right there. So Chris Beck is the guy that I will certainly hold a happy thought in my heart for, as Shane Gaffney, who apparently broke his pacemaker and was able to actually blow that sucker completely up.
I can report we're not going to switch, but I can report he's now down under 200 at 197, on the heart rate. That just tells you how deep he went. Like, his body still hasn't recovered. It probably won't recover for a few more minutes. I mean, that's beating still very, very hard. I mean, that's still removing a lot of lactic acid from your system. He
broke that stuff. My goodness. as we consider this last climb, we're going to get a little bit of Rossio trying to get away off the front of this. He's the one putting in the big watts. The numbers turn orange when you go into a very, very tough spot. That's a lot of power coming out of your pedals, and the numbers change accordingly. The guy who is maybe carrying the Garcia jinx is now a little bit off the back here. I realize there's quite a bit left to go, but he found himself with no one to break the wind in front of him.
I think he was trying to ride intelligently, and this is that tension that you get. You're trying to stay on the back and not expend any extra energy, but he just cut it a little too close, and then he was off the back and had to dig pretty deep. So that might hurt him, and you see Jeffrey trying to take advantage of that right now.
Ooh, and there he goes. Jeffrey Creel Team Vision trying to get away off the front here. Rossio very attentive, tries to go with him, making sure that he gets onto as much as he can in the slipstream. It's time for Chris Beck to go. You cannot let that gap open up much more than that. That's 3 meters. You're starting to lose your aerodynamic advantage. You want to get in the slipstream in the draft. That is Goulet in front of him, the Velocity T from Canada. So we'll say Goulet because, of course, that would be the French way to say it. Rossio makes the connection there with Creel back on his wheel. But off the front there just a little bit, we have one more rider, Rossio, there on the tail of that. As we look at Chris Beck, he is in the 4th position overall. They've got to close that gap now. There is no opportunity beyond this if they don't. Maybe Chris Beck is backing it off a little bit. Maybe he's hoping these guys are going to back it off, and then he's going to ramp up at just the right time. Folks have come back with 1 kilometer to go, this kind of distance, and 1 at the end. But these are 2 fast dudes. They may be there. This may be the finish that Creel has been wanting all season. He's got a chance here to come off the front, Team Vision, and have this. He's wearing the GCN kit. That is the white and red. Excuse me, that's Rossio. Goulet moves ahead. Oh, no, Creel is long gone. There's no chance he's going to get caught at this point. We see him way, way up ahead. The rider, the Vision rider from Australia, way off the front. Everyone else has kind of backed it off. Rossio now on the red decides to kick it into high gear. Goulet not responding quick enough. That gap continues to grow. We're going to see a 1-second gap here probably in just a second, although the watts are starting to come up. Can he come back in time? Maybe so. He's got the slipstream now. Goulet trying to come around. Creel's going to come across first right about now. But Rossio and Goulet head-to-head trying to come across first. 100 meters to go. Fading a little bit is Goulet, but he slips back into that slipstream. If he's got one big kick right there, he can come across. Doesn't do it in time. Rossio will take that big finish. And the next guys across the line will be the folks we mentioned a moment ago, Cameo, and, of course, Chris Beck. So Chris Beck did not take the win there. He found himself gapped, and sometimes you can't make that distance up, can you, Frank?
No, sometimes you can, and that was some interesting interplay there. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I think what Chris was hoping, he was trying to get the other guy to do the work, and that could indicate that he was just racing smart today and maybe didn't go the way that he expected, or that he just didn't really have it today, and so he was trying to get somebody else to pull him so he could do the sprint. But in the end, fantastic effort by Jeffrey off the front, bold move, and it paid off today.
Paid off today, indeed. 1 lap to go for the women. They're coming up here under the banner. It's going to be just another few minutes before they come across for the 7th and final time. They're averaging about 10 minutes a lap, and you will not want to miss out this big finish. But in this final lap, we're going to have a chance to maybe take a look at the sprint finish from the women's E race a little bit earlier today, but not the F. There was a really exciting finish. I believe that's when it was. Might have been the D where it got pretty exciting there at the end as well. But these women's races are fabulous. Katie Pothier was one of those in Los Angeles just a few short months ago. She is trying to stay in this group. Ana Beneviente, she is the lone PTZ rider in this group. Beneviente, the Vixen rider, no longer has her teammate in the group, which would be Jen Mattis. She's off the back just a little bit. Okay. Here's what we have from earlier today. This was the women's finish, the trio. Wilkinson, Buchholz, and Behring with a big finish. Claudia Behring was in Los Angeles. Eva Buchholz from Germany trying to get her ticket punched there as well. Claudia Baring looking at what's going on. Mary Wilkinson from the UK, very strong but slight rider. Both of them really dig in here. But the advantage has to go to Baring here, who gets just a little bit of an aerodynamic draft as she comes around. But where is Buchholz? She's coming strong as well. She knows how to sprint. And as we look at Wilkinson, we see inch by inch the runway running out. Can Baring come around her at the end? This is what we saw earlier today. It looks like, in fact, she's going to be able to get her nose to come around just slightly. But is there so much runway left that Wilkinson can get that same arrow and scoot around herself? Maybe not. In fact, it would not be the case for her. And Buchholz comes and makes her name known at the higher spot on that podium in second place. Great delayed sprint for her, and it goes Baring, Buchholz, Wilkinson. Wilkinson, a more experienced, more mature rider, not like these two young bucks. Still very, very strong performance, but finds herself in third. That is what she would like. This girl right here, Trina Weiss, would love to come across in Claudia Baring territory. And so she's got to look. She's got to look at who the instigator is in that group and who can she sprint around. It might be Angela Webster. We saw Webster last week go out strong and go out early. We may even have last week's sprint finish with Angela Webster in it. That would be amazing to be able to pull up. There's a challenge for the technical department.
The producer just shot you a hand signal. I'm not going to say what it was.
Okay. Producer is saying that. To my memory, to my recollection, they're even tagged. All right, but
it was just a hand held up like stop. I don't know what all the rest of you people are thinking.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. We've got lots of folks. Jeffrey Creel just joined into the video here to just see what's going on. Oh, my goodness. Scotty, trying to figure out exactly what happened. Sometimes things happen. Trina doing a nice job in this. Oh, my God. Oh, it's Scotty on Trina. Yep, computer shutdown. That is one of the things that can happen. That's the equivalent of a crash on the road, a puncture at the wrong time. Scotty finds himself out of the race today. What a bummer. He was going. Actually, he was gone. Is there any chance he was going to get caught?
I think today, there was definitely the chance that he would be caught. And, I think Jeffrey was out, a man on a mission today. And so I think, sometimes you're going to bury it all now. Might have been hard, but maybe it was Jeffrey who unplugged that computer earlier today so that it wouldn't have juice.
Absolutely. That's the way to do it, right? That if you don't have to ride faster than your opponents, you just have to unplug their stuff. And that's how it goes. Hey, if you're joining us for the first time here on CVR World Cup on Mixer, click that follow. We'll let you know when these men, these women are racing and bring it to you through the Mixer. We'll also do that if you click that like button. Shane Gaffney joining us in the group here. He's finished his race, checking out the women's finale, and it's going to be an exciting one. Austin Brink would like to have it today. Kubota would like to have it today. I think that Weiss, though, probably wants it more than anybody. Angela Webster might beg to differ, but Trina, you see her setup right there. She's in the room. She is the sprinter out of this group. No one would like to take that away from her, maybe more than Stephanie Austin-Brink, who's currently wearing that green jersey. The green jersey goes to the fastest person through that sprint time right there. And it looks like it was Austin Brink previously. What in your mind is the psychological advantage to having the sprint jersey before the final sprint?
I think there actually is a psychological advantage. You're basically saying to everybody, I can sprint quickly. Now, depending on whether or not the individual, you can sort of put that out of your mind because you might not have gone that hard through the sprint during the course of the event.
You're not kidding. Now, as we look at that sprint very specifically, right? That the one who's got the green jersey, at least visible to most of these women, is Stephanie Austin-Brink. She may have just lost it. Somebody may have just gone through a little bit faster than her. The jersey color change, at least in this view. But the other riders did see her with that green jersey on. Kubota is probably the strongest overall steady power, but she is maybe in a different spot as far as her fitness right now. She's got that long power, but the sprint power, hard to see. This is her setup. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, this is the signal she's sending to us right now. They're about to come through Trafalgar Square here for the big finish.
So I'm going to pick Ellison now that you've doubted her sprint power, because the last time I doubted Ellison's sprint power, she made me look foolish, and so I think she's now, it's between Ellison and Katrina that I think it's going to be between those two, but you may have just provided the motivation for Ellison to launch into orbit.
They're not listening to us. I mean, I could say stuff like Shane Gaffney is a beautiful man and maybe a gift to the world, and he would never know, because these racers don't listen to us, do they, Frank?
I think they do, because they like to make me look foolish.
Everyone likes to do that. That's just, one of the oldest pastimes. And look, Angela Webster wants to make us look foolish, and she decides that she's going to get out on a little bit of a flyer. As we look at her view, she comes under with the 1 kilometer to go. The possibility of someone getting broken out here. She may be relying on the psyche of these different riders who don't want to be the one who has to pull it back. But thankfully for Webster, for Ossenbrink and for Kubota and Weiss, they close that gap really, really quick. Maybe just a little bit of a trial to see how fresh people's legs are, right? You want to limit that maybe to just a couple people. As we said earlier, the esports strategy we employ at my university with all of our esports folks is never take a fair fight. You want the weakest riders, they want the weakest competitors in the group with you. They're about to catch up with the lapped rider, Jen Mattis. We won't jump on her, but we will call the big finish here. You suggest that it might be Kubota. I think this is Weiss's day, but who is going to upset? Maybe Ossenbrink.
They're leaving it too late. They're leaving it too late.
They are. This is Trina's territory right now. We're going to hit that 300 meters to go. Actually, we're already inside it. There's the 200 meters. They're going to start to uncork this thing, and here we go. Trina topping out faster than anybody else. There it is, 10 watts per kilo. She's the sprinter. Can they come back a little bit? They're starting to pull her back just a little bit. Will anybody come across her line? Could it be the Vixen rider? No. Angela Webster in second place. They did. They left it too long. They gave her the short sprint. She is going to crush your dreams every time. This is what it looked like for her. In fact, as we check it out, there we go. Allison Kubota trying to do everything she can to get back on. She's got that big, fast push right there, and it was not enough. Now, we saw just briefly with Trina, her overall look. Check this out right there. She starts in a really low position. She takes a big gear, and like a pro tour sprinter, pumps her fist. That's absolutely right, as you should. Nice job. The Weiss family comes across first. And there is Scotty right there cheering for his wife. I love it. That is what we want to see here, CVR World Cup League. We've got men, we've got women working really, really hard. These three come across. Trina Weiss is going to be the winner today. Angela in second place, Allison in third place, Stephanie in fourth place. Great job for all of these women as we wrap up, for some of them, their first full CVR World Cup season. Anara is just a little bit further behind Jenny Mattis, who I mentioned just a little while ago. You know what? This is pretty much going to wrap it up for us. But there is one more zone if you want to check it out. It's a little bit later today. That would be, of course, the Zone H. We're looking actually at the zone, that's my fault again, unfortunately, Zone F standings. But some of these women are going to maybe go head-to-head with Vicky Whitelaw, Cheryl Muldoon, Lauren McMurtry, some real favorites in here. Some of the men that you saw a little bit may go up against some other really strong men, including this guy, Greg Leo. Maybe Kai Barrett's going to find himself there in Vancouver. Frank Deal. It could be any one of those folks. We'll see how it goes. It's been great bringing this event to you, and we're very, very pleased to do it. So thank you so much for having our back and coming and checking these events out. We want to say thank you to everyone who joined us. Don't leave without clicking the follow. That way we can notify you when things are getting good. Hello there, Mixer. A few of you joining just now. You're going to want to see these racers in the future, and you're going to want to see things show up in the big event in Vancouver, which is just a month away. Stay tuned later this week for the big reveal show to see what the postseason 1v1 matchups are and who has been selected to go. Saris, Cyclops, Power Tap, thank you very much for your sponsoring of these events. Garneau, and of course the Hunter Allen Peaks coaching group, which make this fabulous. I want to say thank you to everyone who participated today, all of the riders. Many apologies for if we offended you. Not really, we didn't offend you, but a special thanks to Beth York, to Frank Garcia, my co-caster, and all those who made it behind the scenes, including producer Kathy and everyone else. Thank you so much for all that you've provided. We're looking forward to seeing you very, very soon on the next one of these broadcasts. We'll have them next week, the head-to-head. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.